Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. This is a list of 20 tips I wish I knew sooner before I started playing Ghost of Yōtei. We'll cover the start of the game, combat, the open world, gear that you should be going for first to make your life in the early game much easier, and some easy ways to earn more coins as well. So let's begin at the beginning with the start of the game. Once you've got to chapter 1, straight after the intro, head to the left of your old home and be sure to fix this bamboo stand that belonged to Atsu's father to begin an activity for a really quick way to increase your spirit. And this is useful because spirit is used to heal yourself in battle or to activate abilities, and so it's really nice to have more spirit in the early game, and it's also going to sort of teach you what to do as you go through the game. So make sure you keep doing these bamboo activities as you progress. Now, if you're doing these bamboo strikes and you're having any trouble with the button combination, you can actually make it easier for yourself. So we're going to go to Settings, Accessibility, Rapid Button Presses, and switch that to Simplified. And that then eliminates the time factor, and now all you have to do is just memorize the button pattern and you're good to go. I would recommend going to the old stables as early as possible to pick your horse that will join you on your adventure for the rest of the game. You've got 3 options, black, gray, or white, and each horse seems to have its own personality, as well as 3 names to pick. And if you miss this, you could be stuck with your starter horse for the entire game, which is the white horse in the selection. So if you care about your horse color and horse name and horse personality, then make sure you get to this. So that's the opening of the game, right? Now let's talk combat. As you play, you'll notice that some enemies will attack you with a move that shows a yellow glint, and that is a disarming move that will get rid of your weapon if the attack lands. And the weapon will go flying, and sometimes it will go flying to such an extent that you might kind of be screwed over in the fight. However, remember that there are probably other enemies around that you've already killed, and you can pick up their weapons and use them against the enemy. And then once you've cleared the area, then you can go back and retrieve your main weapon once the field is clear. Now, let's say you've been doing that already, but you've been struggling a bit in a lot of the fights that are super close range, and you wish you had something a bit longer range. There's an easy fix for this. You're going to go and complete the Old Inn quest, which consists of defeating basically loads of outlaws who've taken over the inn, and that's going to unlock you the bow from Bowya. It's the first ranged weapon in the game, and it's good to get ASAP for those long-range encounters, so you don't have to keep running in there with your katanas. Now, a bonus that you'll get here, a bit of 2 for the price of 1 action, is that this location also appears to be a sort of hub for making purchases on equipment, armor, weapons, and upgrades with coins that you'll earn during your journey. But if you want a way to earn coins much faster, we're going to talk about that a little later in the video. So back to the topic of getting more weapons, you might not have necessarily realized you can go after the 3 main story targets, those first 3, in whatever order you want to, and crucially, each of those quests will unlock a new weapon for you. So if there's a particular weapon that you've got a hankering for, you're going to want to go after that target. So on screen right now, I'm going to show you, these are your options. This is what's served up to you at the start of the game. And so you might want to choose the order of taking down those targets based on which weapons you want to get first. But that's not the only way to expand all the weapons that you're getting, obviously. You can also sort of upgrade the efficacy of your weapons. And one of the most exciting ways to do this is the Way of Dual Katana. It's an early quest that will get you the dual katanas instead of a single katana, and those are effective against enemies that use a spear. But even aside from that, it's also just nice to have a second melee choice when it comes to combat. Now, if you're having any trouble in the combat, it's generally going to work as rock, paper, scissors. That's almost the way that you should be thinking about it. So some examples of this, for instance, would be to always match a single blade with another single blade. That's just something you need to remember. Then dual katanas, like I just mentioned, should be matched against pole arms. So that's those spear enemies. Then the odachi, that's the massive blade, is effective against brutes. So as you go through the game and you encounter all these enemy types, you need to start learning these combos and keep an eye out for any other potential synergies that you find in your playthrough. But I don't want to make it so that it's all down to you just remembering stuff, right? And also, we've just mentioned loads of close range examples. What about projectiles? Like, what about that long range stuff? Well, if you go to the settings menu once again, and you turn on projectile indicator, this will then show you the direction of any projectiles heading towards you. And it's going to make it significantly easier to time your dodge to avoid them. So we've got our weapon synergies for the rock, paper, scissors game of close range combat, and we've got a super easy way to just avoid projectiles in long range combat. But if you are still having any difficulty, you're still having trouble, there are also difficulty settings that you can change on the fly, and so that might give you the final push you need if you're really struggling with something. But let's assume that things are going well. Right? Let's now start talking about the open world. Our first tip here is you can actually miss certain unlocks if you don't explore the open world enough in the game. So, for example, if you don't search for altars, you could finish the main story with only a few skills unlocked in your skill tree. So you're probably wondering, okay, well, now I want to go get those altars. How do I find them? I think the easiest way is to set up camp a few times, and you'll meet Isaburo the cartographer, and he will then sell you maps that you can then place on the map tab on the pause menu, and those will help you locate activities such as altars. But they'll also help you locate a bunch of other stuff as well, so this is definitely worth doing. Another way of finding secrets hidden around Ezo is from this golden bird. It will appear on your screen when you're relatively close to, for example, a hot spring, an altar, a bamboo strike like I showed you earlier, etc. And if you follow the bird, it will guide you towards whatever that nearby activity is. So don't mistake the bird for just a random addition to the open world. It actually has some secrets hidden behind it. Now, I mentioned setting up camp a moment ago, right? There's some other stuff that you can do when you set up camp. So you can play different songs that you learn on your shamisen, and that will also reveal locations for certain activities, such as bamboo strikes. Now, speaking of all of these activities, Atsu has a wolf companion that shows up randomly, and in order to strengthen your bond with that wolf, you need to find wolf dens. These are activities where you help free other wolves and are rewarded with upgrades to your own wolf as you're essentially gaining its trust as you do so. And the reason you want to do this is that that wolf is going to save you in combat. So sometimes you'll be getting low on health and an enemy will be about to do the final blow, and the wolf will enter the combat and prevent that enemy from doing so by killing the enemy. And you upgrading the wolf can mean, for example, that that wolf comes in more frequently or things along those lines. So it's worth making sure you do these upgrades. But let's say, just as an example, a hypothetical, right? That you hate wolves. I don't know, you've got some wolf-related trauma, right? You can turn the wolf's appearances completely off if you don't like it joining you in battle. And to do this, go to the settings here and change this. It's an option, so use that if you like pain, I suppose. Next, when you're free roaming, you'll occasionally come up against groups of enemies, and you have a choice, right? You can either encounter those enemies or you can just ignore them. But I would recommend fighting these any opportunity you get, because the last member of the group will normally give you intel and may also give you something called a clue card. And these are useful for you because they give you a hint on objectives that you can participate in. And these aren't the only way to get them. So some more ways to get clue cards are completing quests. You can also get them from talking to random NPCs as well. So make sure you're being chatty, and you'll be rewarded for getting those clue cards and completing them with either just straight up rewards or with information. So they're definitely worth doing. Next, let's talk gear. A great feature in this game is going after a bounty. So you'll be given a clue card and it will have hints on the bounty's whereabouts, and then you need to either capture or kill the target. And doing this is a pretty good way to earn money in the game, right? You remember I said that we were going to talk about earning more coins before? This is one of those methods, and you can then use that money on upgrades for your gear. And if you run out of bounties, you can then also visit Kojiro, the bounty broker, who has his own bounty board, and you can get more bounties that way. Another way to earn money in the game is playing the coin game found in the gambling dens. To summarize, this is a game where you have to flick a coin into another coin on the table, but if you accidentally hit 2 coins or a coin falls off the table, then you have to give up and it's then the opponent's turn. Now, just like we did before, turns out there's actually a setting you can turn on to make this game easier should you so desire. So settings, accessibility, and then Zeni Hajiki shot power display on. This setting gives you a visual indicator on how far you would be flicking the coin on the table, which is really handy. And I'm the sort of person where, with these sorts of games in a video game, I don't want to fail 50 times in a row. Like, I'm too impatient. So this is definitely a setting that I personally recommend. So let's say you've earned a ton of money now from the coin game and from especially taking out all those bounties. So the next question is, what are we going to spend all that money on, right? And the answer to that is probably, firstly, arrows for your bow, but then also upgrades for your armor. But to upgrade armor, we have to have some armor in the first place. So let's talk about armor now. You can find this through your journey. They're going to grant you specific perks and benefits as well, depending on what armor you're using. So an example of an early game armor set that I would recommend is the Spider Lily armor. This is going to send out a shockwave in the nearby vicinity after breaking an enemy's guard, which will then also make all the other nearby enemies stagger for a short period of time, making them vulnerable to attacks. There's also an upgrade to the Spider Lily armor, which increases the likelihood of an enemy dropping a throwable weapon for you to then pick up and use, which is super useful as well. So let's talk about how you get it, right? Because the quest is also actually pretty unique and kind of creepy, which I think makes it cooler. So to start with, you're going to head to the mysterious gate on the map, as I'm showing you just here. Then as you go through the gate, you'll begin to learn the storyline behind the armor. And in order to fully unlock it, you have to find the 4 keys in the area that are keeping the next gate locked. Each padlock on the gate has a picture of a clue as to where to find the keys, and I'll put all of those on screen for you now, just as nice visual reference. But I'm also going to walk you through each of them because I want to make your life as easy as possible. So I think the easiest one is probably the pagoda one. Both this one and the second key that we're going to talk about is to the right of the gate if you're facing the gate. And so for the first one specifically, it's just in a chest by the pagoda. You can see it on screen right here. This one is fairly straightforward. The second we're going to talk through is the gravestone key. And this one has a bunch of guards by this gravestone. So come over here, kill all the guards, and you'll then be able to grab the key from just here. The third is the maze key. So when facing the padlocked gate, you're going to turn left and head into the maze with a broken bamboo strike in the middle. And the middle area has 5 paths branching off, and you'll notice every path you go down will just instantly teleport you back to the bamboo strike. So the trick here is you want to take the path that has a trail of spider lilies laid on the floor. And once you do this the first time, the spider lilies will then be laid on the floor on a different path. So do that 3 times in a row, and you'll then spawn back at the bamboo strike, which will now be repaired, and it will contain the maze key. Then finally, for the 4th key, it's the cave key. Head towards the southern caverns, which are located just north of the maze entrance, and you'll meet an outlaw who's injured from trying to obtain the key himself, and he'll direct you into the cave. You'll want to follow the trail for a while, as I'm showing you in the gameplay just here, and you'll then reach this rock climb. Head up the rock climb, then crawl under these rocks on your right-hand side, continue through the cave and squeeze through these 2 rocks just here, and you'll then end up in an area where the former Spider Lily General's daughter used to hide from her father when she didn't want to train with him. She's just like me for real. And you'll find the key just here as well. So that's 4 keys. You can then go back to the gate. You can use those keys on the padlocks, open the gate, and it will lead you to a fight with the aforementioned Spider Lily General. And once you take him down, you'll be able to steal his armor. So you've got your armor lily set. What do you start doing when you get more sets, right? Like, how do you juggle all these different sets? Well, if you want to try all the armor sets in the game and test which advantages which ones give you, I'd recommend using the loadout feature, where you can save presets for your character, including the different armor pieces you have equipped, as well as charms that may link up with said armor. And this will be nice if you, for instance, want to have a stealth build and a ranged build and be able to easily switch between the two. So those are my introductory tips to the Ghost of Yōtei. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and I'd really love if you guys could leave your own tips in the comments down below so that we can crowdsource even more useful information for anyone getting started with the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.